Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the O Gaming TV Nation Wars, and my name is, of course, TotalBiscuit. I'm joined by Greg, Idra, Fields, and we are going to be going to a quick call with Pomfetude, the French caster. Is going to be talking a little bit about the last two wars, and then we'll be going into the next one, which is, of course, going to be Russia versus Norway. And that is going to result in one of these teams going on to the playoffs in Day 3 and another being knocked down to the finals match where they will face the winner of Spain versus Poland. And we are, in fact, about to be on the call with the guys over at O Gaming. There we go.
Norvège versus Russie.
As you can hear from the French.
Bien, j'ai hâte de voir ça. C'est deux équipes vraiment très très lourdes. On a pu voir qu'un seul joueur de la Russie, donc, mais les deux autres sont forts. Et la Norvège, ils ont été très impressionnants, mais aussi très modestes, quoi. Quand on les a entendus s'exprimer, genre Snute, Eiki, les deux étaient très modestes. Donc je pense que ça va être super intéressant et j'ai vraiment hâte de voir ça. J'aimerais trop commenter cette partie. Mais...
Alors, t'as commenté les deux premières.
Le plaisir t'a été
Faut faire tourner maintenant.
Le plaisir m'a été volé.
Faut faire tourner maintenant. Alors, si j'ai bien compris, nous avons Tibi sur le Skype derrière nous. Hey Tibi.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you doing, man?
Not too bad at all.
Not too bad. What did you think about the two first match we had tonight?
I think the first match's result was fairly predictable. We certainly expected a little bit of a better performance out of Vortex, which worries us a little bit going into the losers match, but I think the Norway result was quite surprising for a lot of people. Eiki put on a really good performance.
Yeah, Eiki, I don't know about you, but I didn't have any idea before about Eiki as a player. And
no,
then
neither
I just,
did we.
Like destroy every single player he had to play. So I was really impressed.
Yeah, apparently he's pretty much a part-time player. He's at school. He practices on the weekends, and the build that he was using is one that he commonly uses and is also quite appropriate for some of his opponents. He was talking to us in the interview and said that when he scouted the 3 barracks aggression of Dystar, his response was to simply chrono boost out the Colossus, and he knew that he could hold that and then go on to win. So it was pretty impressive from an up-and-comer.
Yeah, he was really, really impressive. So, guys, if you have, okay. So maybe, what do you think about the next match we're gonna have? Like, who's your favorite to win?
I would still say Russia is the favorite, and I reckon that Greg probably agrees with me on that. Russia just has a better overall lineup. They don't have a weak player in their roster, and they also didn't have to show any more builds or any of their other playstyles because they were able to just all kill with Titan. So I think Russia still has the edge, but I think this is going to be a bit closer than the Spain match.
So we're gonna see more than one player out of Russia.
I think so. I would be very surprised to see a second all-kill out of Russia here.
Okay, so apparently Idra is in the call too?
He is, yes.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you are? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Hello, Idra.
Hello, Idra.
Hello.
Hello, Greg.
I got one question. What do you think about this nation war, Idra?
I think the most exciting thing so far has actually been Eiki.
Yeah.
Like you guys said, no one had ever heard of him before. Apparently he's the best Protoss in Norway, but no one had any idea. And he came out and he played really solid games. It wasn't like he got lucky or anything. He played smart games. He just kind of outplayed 2 people he was against. And Dystar, maybe not the biggest name, but man, it's pretty big. I'm really excited to see him against Russia because, you know, if he goes through those players, then that's a real test. Especially because they're very aggressive. They seem like they will match up well against his style. And then the big disappointment, I guess, was Vortex. Apparently he's been studying a lot more than he's been practicing recently, but that was still pretty disappointing. Expected more from him.
Yeah, I felt like he didn't throw the game, but he didn't play to his maximum level, I guess.
No, definitely.
So that was pretty disappointing, but that's gonna be difficult for them to win the losers match then. If Vortex is not in shape, like it's gonna be tough to take out the other team in the losers match. So I don't know. Do you guys have any other questions?
Thank
Okay,
you very
so
much.
yeah, thank you so much, guys. And
No problem at all.
Next game, I guess.
Thanks a lot, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See
Ciao, ciao.
See ya.
All right, well, there's a few words there from the French casters, and a little bit of French lesson at the start, as always, from those guys. They're really, really great. I've actually had the pleasure to see them live. Greg, you've never been to a live O-Gaming event in France, have you?
No, I haven't. I didn't manage to qualify for the first one, like the first big, like their introductory event. I'm not actually sure what else they've done.
They did a couple of Iron Squids, and they also did some smaller O-Gaming events, including some French players, and I actually went to one of their smaller ones, and this was when we were talking to the guys about casting Season 1 of the Iron Squid tournament online, which was actually a lot of work. We had to produce an awful lot of 1080p VODs and actually upload them, and I was in the UK at the time on a 2 megabit upload connection. That didn't go so well, so that took a lot of work. I actually had Apollo staying at my house for about 2 weeks, and we cast as many replays as we could, like just 8 hours a day to try and get through all this stuff. But before that, both myself and Apollo went to Paris to go and negotiate with them, and we went to the smaller event they did, and instead of a StarCraft tournament, it was more like a rock concert. Like, everyone was standing for the entire time, which is really unusual. There were no chairs, so everyone just kind of stood around with beers and things like that, and it was more of a party atmosphere. They still played StarCraft, of course, but they did a lot of music, they had a DJ there. It was really, really unique. And it was sort of a smaller version of what Iron Squid turned out to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had heard that's pretty much what Iron Squid was. I really liked Iron Squid because even though I didn't qualify for it, they like made me my own theme music or whatever. They did that for every player in the first one.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I'm kind of sad it never caught on. It seemed like it went really well. It was very well received. And then just people kind of stopped paying attention to it. Like, even though they kept hosting events.
Yeah, I think like their strength there is definitely the actual offline component of it. Aside from that, against being an online tournament. And there was a lot of replay casting and things like that. All right, we're going to join the call to interview Happy, who is the captain of Team Russia. And we'll be hearing from them very quickly before we go into the first game, which will actually be TargA versus Titan. Eventually. Okay, call is not working. Let's see if I can try again. There we go. Okay. Fantastic. That worked. We're about to start, but I believe we do have Happy on the call right now, captain of Team Russia.
Yeah, hello.
Hey there, Happy. We just want a very, very quick word from you before we actually start off here. You had a really strong start in this Nation War, going 3-0 with Titan alone. And this time around, you're starting off against Norway. Do you feel this will be a tougher test for you?
Yeah, it will be difficult to win against Norway, I guess.
Do you think Titan actually has the potential to all-kill once again here?
Yeah, why not?
There we go. I mean, what other possible information could you actually need there? If you end up in the finals, which team would you like to face?
In the finals of whole thing, you mean?
The whole thing, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the same opponents that we will play in this group. Let's say,
the ones that you've already beaten.
Let's say against Spain, and then we win 3-0 again.
There we go, yeah. I mean, that seems like a really solid strategy that's going to be difficult to beat. All right, Happy, I will not take up any more of your time. Thank you very much. We're going to be going into the first match here on Derelict Watcher very, very shortly here between TargA and Titan. Going to be a little bit more interesting, I think, than last time around. It's hard to know which way this one is going to go, but I'm looking forward to finding out nonetheless.
I love the Russians' interviews so far.
They've been brilliant.
Titan and Happy are just like polar opposites. Titan is just like happy and loves everything. Why do you forget? Because it works.
Because it works.
It's Happy is like, I just want to play the same people we 3-0'd and get this over with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're just waiting for Snute to come and actually talk about Norway. We will hear from him momentarily. He's actually still talking with the French casters right now. But I'd like to hear your thoughts, Greg, on TargA versus Titan as an opening match.
That'll be funky because, I don't know, we saw two very, very different styles out of Titan in the PvZs that he had to play previously. He did play 2 PvZs, right?
Yes. He...
Did he?
No,
wait,
just the
was
one.
he against?
Yeah, just the one. Was it?
Confused. No, because he played Alistair and then
he
played...
yeah, of course, yeah, he did go against 2 Zergs.
And the first game he did the 3 Stargate Void Ray style, and then the next game he did a very fast third base into just kind of a lot of really heavily upgraded units with a shield upgrade. It's the odd part. But 2 very different styles, but both very, very early thirds, very macro-oriented. And against TargA, that can be kind of dangerous, because both the games he played already, he did a Roche Bane all-in, then he did a Wing Bane all-in. So it seems like he's not really straying from his super aggressive roots. Yeah, if Titan's not careful about that, that can be dangerous, but it's pretty hard to cheese a Protoss early on. We saw some of the stuff that Eiki was getting away with there, and that works in PvZ too. It's hard to kill Protoss.
All right, let's hear from Snute then, before we begin. And we shall just go on through to the conversation with Snute. It seems like only a short while ago that we were talking to you, Snute.
Yep, hello.
Well, that was a surprise for a lot of people. That was a really strong performance from Team Norway. Did you expect Eiki to be able to perform to that level?
We weren't sure about the PvP, but Eiki was feeling confident in his PvT, so I expected him to take at least one map, and the last one was a very welcome bonus.
Yeah, we could certainly see that one. Mana, unfortunately, got pretty hard. He got shut down really hard, let's be honest. It was a Dark Shrine, which didn't do anything, into some kind of cute Immortal drop play, but as usual from Eiki, we saw this really, really quick Colossus style, which resulted in a very, very dead opponent very quickly. Are you a little bit worried, though, that Eiki has kind of shown everything he can do and that he might be shut down next time?
Well, that depends on Russia, and I don't know if they are going to do something differently if they have to play against Eiki, so it's a bit too soon to answer. And, you know, I don't know if Eiki has more builds prepared. He could have different styles as well, so it's a bit too soon to tell.
Fair enough. Now, you decided to send in TargA against Titan. Titan, of course, comes off an all-kill against Spain and played against 2 Zerg already. So I've got to ask, why send TargA in against someone that's obviously pretty good in PvZ?
I think we expected either sLivko or Happy to be the starter, but it turned out to be Titan, so that's a little bit unlucky for Norway. But I still think TargA can take it anyway.
Fair enough. Now, so far we've seen some really aggressive builds, some all-ins certainly coming out of TargA, which have been met with fairly mixed success. Now, I've got to ask, is that why you actually brought TargA onto the team? Because he's sort of the aggressive player of the group, or is he more well-rounded than he's currently showing?
Well, he's one of the best players in Norway, so that's the primary reason why he's on the team. It's because of his overall skill. He's very accomplished, so it's it doesn't have anything to do with his style. It's just that he's a really good player.
Well, in that case, if he's a really good player, we could end up seeing all sorts of things coming out of him. Well, the guys are ready to go, so I won't take any more of your time. Best of luck, Snute, and let's see what we can do here for Norway, who surprisingly makes their way through to the winners match, defeating one of the favorites to win in the tournament, Poland. So let's see what they can do. And of course, if they lose, they will be able to move on to the losers final, where they will face off against either Poland or Spain. So one of these guys goes all the way through, and the other will be going down to the losers final. So pretty much the GSL style of doing things, so I think you guys know how that goes. Alright, Greg, so what do you reckon? What's your prediction for this particular series?
I still feel like Russia has to be the favorite. I wasn't even expecting Norway to get to the winners match, and I just think Russia's the stronger team. They have, like, all 3 of their players could beat any of the players on Norway's team. Like, I think any of their players are capable of 3-0ing them on a good day. But Eiki, I don't know, maybe he's the wild card here, because would not have expected him to win any games at all. I just had no idea who he was, but he looked quite good. So, I don't know. And then TargA, of course, like, maybe he cheeses out Titan, then Snute can play cleanup afterwards. Eiki maybe gets a win or 2. I don't know. Anything's possible. I would say Russia still has to be the favorite, though. They just have the better players.
Hard to disagree with that one, honestly. It's been a really strong performance so far from Russia. We haven't even got to see the other 2 players, but we already know how strong they are. Happy, right now, I'd say Happy is the best Terran in Europe, and I mean, looking at his results, I think it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, he's so consistent, too. He's always going to make it to, like, top 4, top 8 of whatever he does. And unfortunately, his stylistic play, his consistency kind of works against him, because he never tends to make it past that. He starts to run into people who are as good as him, and they know how he plays. But he's not the kind of player to lose to anyone worse than him. He's always going to perform pretty well.
That is very true. All right. So here we go. First player coming out from Norway. Sent out for his attack on Titan. In the northeast position. In the Red Trunks playing Zerg, it is TargA. Versus his opponent to the southwest position, who was able to achieve an all-kill against Spain. Let's see if he can repeat his success. In the blue trunks playing Protoss for Team Russia, it is Roxkiss Titan.
Dropping a pylon at his natural this time, going for a slightly less greedy build, because this is the map where he did the absurdly greedy build against Vortex.
Yep.
Nexus first gateway, and then like no units, and then a forge a minute or two later. And not doing that again here. Maybe because he knows that his opponents were watching. He doesn't want to get hard countered, because that kind of build does have hard counters. He's also scouting very early on. He is playing against TargA. TargA is the kind of player you could absolutely see a 10 pull out of him. Might be worried about that. It is just a 15 pull, nothing out of the ordinary. That quick probe scout, Titan making sure that he stays safe, and actually doing quite a bit of harassment. TargA's just kind of giving up the mineral patch for a while there.
Yeah. It's a little annoying. I think it's one of those things that I believe it was first popularized, at least in the foreign scene, by Huck back in that good old DreamHack, which he actually ended up winning. He was doing that a lot. And it was a little bit annoying because a lot of players didn't really know quite how to deal with it. It's become quite commonplace lately, but that was a nice little bit of effective mineral harassment there.
And of course going down to block the natural. And his own Nexus already coming down back at his own natural. So Titan getting a nice fast expansion, doing as much delay, or putting as much delay on TargA as possible. TargA has not put up a gas. Yeah, he hasn't even had to drop a pylon. He's delayed it for this long. That's quite good for him. TargA, still not sure if he's working without Australian latency or not, but his drone control there was not perfect. And TargA in his main has not dropped a gas yet, so we won't see anything too silly out of him. It does look like he's just going to go ahead for a third hatchery as quickly as he can.
That was a nice little start there by Titan, I gotta say. One of the most effective probes I've seen. And as you mentioned, not even having to try for a pylon block, so Titan's about as safe as he could possibly expect to be at the moment. There's that third hatchery going down here from TargA, as you accurately said, and there is no gas, so we're not going to see any nonsense, any kind of busts or anything like that. I'm intrigued to see how TargA actually plays the longer game against Protoss here.
Me too. There's very little you can actually do to really mess with a Protoss early on. Once you get that wall up, once you have cannons and a sentry or two, like, it's just so hard for Roaches and Lynx to do anything to that. Protoss can actually just keep building buildings and keep you out, and then eventually they will have stuff to kill you.
Yeah.
So TargA doesn't have too many options early on here if he actually wants to do some kind of attack, as we've seen him do in the other matchups. So he's kind of forced to go into a macro game, and we haven't seen that from him. He is capable of it to an extent, but the question is to what extent, because Titan looked pretty comfortable in not necessarily macro games, but big 3-base timings, very army heavy, very macro heavy kind of games in his previous matches today.
Yeah, he looked rock solid, and the Zerg really didn't seem to get much of a look in one way or the other. We saw one Zerg just committing suicide against him after some rather questionable decisions. Then, of course, Vortex ended up being a bit of a disappointment in this matchup, which is unusual for him, but that's how it went. TargA able to get out there with that Ling before it dies to the Zealot. There would be no reason whatsoever to let that die. Aside from that, TargA just pushing forward. He's still not taking any gas. On 42 supply now and 0 gas taken.
It's getting pretty risky because it's looking like Titan actually wants to go for Warp Gate aggression. He chrono boosted out a Stalker to give himself some control over vision. Yeah, so it's +1 coming. He's chrono boosting Warp Gate. He's still only on 2 gases. So it's definitely looking like at least 5 or 6 gateways. And then here comes the gateway explosion. You have to see how many he's going to make.
Yep,
oh, but Overlord's coming in at exactly the right time. It's going to see what's happening.
Oh, that's
but there's only 4 gateways thus far, so it's not that big of an investment from Titan.
That is true, but even then, 4 gateways against no gas now on 54 supply. Now he's taking the gas and is starting to mine at the natural. Roach Warren immediately comes down here for TargA. Did TargA leave it too late, do you think, at this point, or is it totally possible to defend from here?
He's right on the edge of it. Theoretically, if your opponent doesn't open up like a super greedy build, if they just go normal, Nexus, Forge, etc., you can go triple gas and then a Roach Warren all at once at 6:30. But I think he was actually like 10 seconds late. And it sounds kind of silly to be that nitpicky, but it can actually become that close against Protoss. But that's for bigger rushes, like 6, 7, 8 gate. Against 4 gate, he maybe is going to lose a little bit of mining time, maybe lose a drone or 2, but he's certainly not going to die to it. The Roach Warren's already completed, and he has quite a few circlings to buy time. All right, and we actually have a Stargate coming up behind from Titan, so that will be the follow-up.
With an Oracle as well. So we could see some multi-pronged nonsense coming out from him, and you might think, well, the Oracle's going to take a little bit of time to build. Yeah, it takes not too much time when you chrono boost, and the thing moves across the map in about 3 seconds, so I wouldn't worry too much. It's pretty speedy. So we'll see another round of Warpins here from Titan, which will coincide with the Oracle about finishing. It might then fly in, and that could cause some of the queens this aggression could cause some of the queens to be pulled, and then the Oracle can go in and do some damage, but we will see the queen count is at 4, so it's reasonable, and here comes the engagement. The Zealots make quick work of those Zerglings with that +1 upgrade, no real problem at all. TargA does get a nice surround, however, against that, and there's way too many roaches, so this aggression is going to get killed without too many problems. However, the Oracle is heading into the main. There is a queen there, which will be able to fend it off. Massive, massive explosion of drones coming out here from TargA, straight into an Evo chamber, and in comes that Oracle. Let's see how much damage it does.
I'm not sure if that was worth it or not from Titan, because he lost quite a few units there.
He did.
He held TargA on low income for a while, but I mean, Zerg obviously has the opportunity to make 20 drones at once.
Wow.
And he
Titan.
loses your Oracle.
Yeah, that was not good, and that was roaches marching across the map here. There is, of course, a Void Ray out, so that shouldn't matter too much, but that was unnecessary. Losing the Oracle was definitely a mistake there.
And Titan's thrown away quite a bit early on here, and he hasn't really accomplished too much. Like I said, he forced TargA to invest some larvae in unit production early on when you don't really want to, but TargA didn't particularly overreact. He could have gotten away with a few less roaches, perhaps. But I don't know, just not a whole lot of damage done for the amount he invested. However, back at home, Titan does have his own third base coming up at a pretty respectable time. He has his Void Ray production started up. He's got decent upgrades going, decent production. Just generally, he's going to be okay. And there's no fourth hatchery for TargA. He doesn't have an overwhelming... Oh, pardon me, there is a fourth hatchery. But he doesn't have an overwhelming economy. He's not necessarily going to be able to explode and just wipe Titan off the map. Titan is going to have to worry about Roach Hydra timing a little bit, because it does kind of look like that's... Actually, TargA's putting up an Infestation Pit, too. Maybe he's going for a Roach Hydra Viper timing, but that's not the best thing against the Void Ray heavy composition that Titan seems to be heading towards.
Do you think he might actually consider using Infestors? We have seen some use in the past against these kind of big balls of Void Rays to mixed results.
Hydraling Void, or Hydraling Infestor, Queen Infestor, that kind of thing can work. Because a lot of times you'll be very zealot heavy, so you can actually just fungal the entire ball, lock the zealots in place, keep your hydras at a distance. That works out kind of well. And he is going for pathogen glands, so that does seem to be the plan. Or at least he is planning on making infestors in some capacity. So you are correct, we will see that. And he's still making a lot of roaches, which means it's going to be like Roach Hydra Infestor, which is very uncommon because you don't have enough gas to have enough hydras and enough infestors to deal with the Void Rays. And with the 2 more Stargates coming up, it's definitely going to be a Void Ray heavy composition. So I'm not sure about this from TargA. But he may be able to do a timing attack with a lot of beefy roaches, just kind of wipe out the ground army, and then remax on more Hydra Infestor focused army. That may be what he's going for here, because otherwise I just don't understand the roaches.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit weird, doesn't it? And we'll find out very shortly. The roach count has got very, very large already. There are actually no Hydralisks on the field whatsoever at this point, and TargA doesn't actually have the gas to produce a huge amount of them at this stage. He's already spent a lot on these Infestors and their Pathogen Glands upgrade. In the meantime, Titan has +2 up, and I would say he's focusing on Void Ray. There we go, 3 Void Rays at once. At the Stargate up there, so that's kind of to be expected. So an Oracle hanging around here, and TargA doesn't seem to have noticed it, but luckily for him, neither has Titan.
Second Oracle produced, he's gotten a few kills. I'm not really sure why he got another Oracle. He just got... I mean, he's getting a few more drones here, but it hardly seems worth it. It's really important to get a lot of Void Rays out early. Since TargA didn't attack, it didn't end up costing him anything, and now he's actually up to 10 drones, so I suppose it's paid for
It's
itself.
worth it now, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that TargA just let his entire mineral line die to 1 Oracle. That was actually ridiculous. Even if Titan loses that Oracle, that's 16 kills. There was no excuse for that. It was sitting right above the hatchery.
No, none whatsoever. And it did actually survive, so now he has it around just for Revelation or anything he needs it for later on. So that's quite a nice move. Ended up being quite a nice move by Titan. And his Void Ray Ball is starting to accumulate. He's getting +3 weapons. He has quite a few Zealots. Although the Zealots are going to be almost worthless here against the Roach Infestor heavy composition.
Murdered. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah, he really needs to be going much heavier on the Void Rays. He's getting Templar out. The Archons will help. Archons do surprisingly well against Roaches as long as they have support units around them. Roaches are kind of like the theoretical counter to Archons. You think, oh, he's making Archons, I'm going to make Roaches. And they defend against them quite well, but if in a bigger army, if they have a lot of support with them, the Archons do very well against Roaches. But he's actually just keeping them as Templar, and Storm is nowhere near completed, so unless he gets great feedbacks, those Templar are just going to be a waste here.
Yeah, I certainly think so. They're not going to do all that much, but the feedback could be useful against the Infestors. The Infestor count is not amazingly high. It is only at 6, but the army for the Zerg is massive here. There are Void Rays, though, and we should never underestimate that fact. Looks like Titan actually kind of had his charge baited out there, and TargA backed off immediately, and charge is about to pop off, and when that does, that Roach Ball is going to be significantly more effective. Feedbacks go down, not incredible so far, but here it comes. Mass rank firepower here from the Roaches. There's the Fungal on the Void Rays. Is now pulling the Zealots away from the Void Rays to make sure they can't get an optimal engagement. More Fungal goes down, and this Protoss army just evaporated.
Got obliterated there. Really, really smart composition. The Roaches ended up working out really well from TargA. Titan was way, way too Zealot heavy, and Zealots just don't do anything against that many Roaches.
No, they don't. But
all of the Void Rays are still alive, and this is what happens when you have Void Rays.
Yep, and unfortunately there doesn't seem to be any energy. There is Queen support, however, and a couple of Infested Terrans coming in, but unfortunately down go all of the Hydralisks, and the Void Rays are now going to push all of this back, and the Zealots moving in on the Queens as well, so that was a little bit strange, but a big remax of 28 Hydras with +2 is on its way, and yes, 28 Hydras is probably enough to kill 6 Void Rays. Also, some Roaches got into the mineral line. Economic damage is being done here. 6 workers killed so far. He'll get a couple more before the Void Rays clean this up. So it was really a case of let's do as much damage as possible, then reload on a different selection. He loses all of his Infestors, which is a bit unfortunate. He's going a little bit brute force here, but that's still a lot of Hydras that are on the way.
As silly as that looked, he is currently maxed against the 134 Protoss, so
yes,
he should win, but this is honestly much closer than it seems, because Templar Tech is up, Charge Loss are out, that's still a lot of Void Rays out on the field. Upgrades are getting pretty big for Titan. If this attack doesn't kill off the Void Rays, kill off the high-tech units, TargA will lose. But that's a lot of Hydras, and I think he's going to have enough to break through
with
here.
+2. That should in theory just gut absolutely everything.
Oh, he has no Storms. He has Storm, but he doesn't have any Templar. That's costing him.
Yeah, this is not going to go well for the Protoss player at all. I don't care how good your Void Ray control is. I don't care how good Void Rays are. That's still 36 Hydras with +2. There's no way in a million years you're stopping that. The third base is now forfeit. We'll see whether or not Titan can actually get some Storm out. He does. He lands one right in the center. A second one kind of whiffs a bit, though, so that does not kill the Hydras. 2 more doing some decent damage here. The Queen goes down, but there's still way too many units here, and TargA is continuing to push his way through here. The third base is now exposed, although there are still Void Rays somehow. The Hydras are coming up behind that to try and change that situation. There's nothing coming out from Titan right now. Big warp in the Zealots, and the Mothership Core being warped back in as well, but TargA wants to hammer it down on the third.
Does look like he's going to be able here as well. More and more units coming in. There's just enough Hydras to deal with those Void Rays, and then the Roaches are going to be absolutely unopposed with that third base falling. There goes Titan's hopes in this game. He doesn't have anything else to really fall back on. And that's the one problem with the Void Ray composition. If you do lose the army, you lose the game, because it's just so resource heavy, so supply heavy. You can't replace it.
Indeed, GG. The MVP of that game was actually the Oracle, which in the back of that was getting more drone kills. It got up to 25 somehow, but it didn't matter. At that point, TargA had just way too large an army. So, regardless of allowing ridiculous numbers of drones to die, that composition that he put together against the Void Rays worked quite well for him.
It did, and the big thing there, it actually went kind of unnoticed at the time, just because it didn't seem like a big deal, but a second wave of Roaches charged in and forced all of the Templar to be morphed into Archons, and that was the reason that there was no Storm in the big engagement, the winning engagement for TargA. And if he had Storm, I really think Titan holds that and then goes on to win, but he did not. He had to warp in new Templar. Of course, they don't have the mana for Storm, thus he easily plows through there with the Hydras unopposed. But if he has Storm, all those Hydras disappear, then the Void Rays clean up, and then he snowballs to victory. So that was, I don't know, it's kind of funny how little things like that can change the battle, but those Roaches running in and not really accomplishing much besides forcing them more for the Archon, that actually won him the game there.
Fair enough. Okay, well, we will be seeing what happens with the next game momentarily. Titan is out of the running, and he, of course, was the all-killer for Russia. So now we actually get to see either sLivko or Happy. Now, against TargA, do you want to do a mirror, or do you want to throw Happy in there?
I would put Happy in. Happy's very comfortable TVZ, and ZVZ in the best of circumstances can be a bit of a crapshoot, but against someone like TargA, it gets really scary really fast. We saw what he did in Urchio, who pretty much by any means any means you measure it by, everyone's going to say Nurcho's a better player there. TargA just kind of beat him like there was nothing to it. So ZVZ against a player like TargA is very, very big risk to take. You don't want to possibly spend sLivko on that when you might need him to beat the big macro Protoss player in Eiki. So I would be very surprised if it's not Happy here, especially with some good TVC maps in the pool. Just send out Happy on Polar Night. I'd be very surprised if that doesn't work out for Russia.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the way to go, I think, in this position. But pretty strong start there from TargA. You know, it's quite surprising considering he, again, allowed an entire mineral line to die to a single Oracle. But regardless, it didn't actually make a difference.
It actually made him stronger. He was freeing up supply for his big attack.
Yeah, as weird as it sounds, that actually is what ended up happening, funnily enough. You know, it allowed him to actually max out on a slightly larger army. That probably was not his intention, but, you know, take a bad situation and make something good out of it, and TargA managed to make that happen, and we did want to see a macro game from TargA, and we got it, and it was good. It was very good. Titan didn't seem like he really had a chance to deal with that.
No, he didn't. That attack timing, it was actually really, really smart on TargA's part. I'm not sure if that's just like something he does against Void Rays, or if he had seen the previous game that Titan played, because Titan was very, very Zealot heavy here. He was also very, very Zealot heavy in the game against Alistar.
Yeah.
And adding in that many roaches, generally that's pretty counterintuitive against Void Rays. Obviously, you don't want Void Rays, or you don't want roaches against Void Rays.
No.
But against a Zealot heavy competition, you clear out all the Zealots, and then the unopposed Hydras can actually deal with the Void Rays. Normally, Hydras, even lots of Hydras against Void Rays and Zealots don't work just because the Hydras never get in to engage against the Void Rays.
Yeah, they get tied down.
Yeah, the Zealots are just there in front of them. But with the roaches to tank and eliminate the Zealots, then a relatively small amount of Hydras can actually deal with the Void Rays like we saw there. So
yeah,
nifty little response from TargA.
All right, well, it will be Happy coming up on Yonsu here against TargA.
Yeah, that makes sense. TargA, or Yonsu, basically the same as Polar Knight. Another very, very short map where it's very hard to take a third base, very quick rush distance. Pretty difficult in general CBT. And Happy, he likes his DVZ. I'm curious to see if he's going to go for Mech or Bio, because I believe it was IEM Singapore, or he was playing quite a bit of TVZ, and he was going Turtle Mech in most of the games. But in the past, he has been a very Bio-heavy player. So I'm not sure if that was just a one-off thing he was trying out for that tournament, or if he has made a complete stylistic switch.
I mean, the last few years that I've seen him play, he likes mech a lot.
It fits with his playstyle. He's exceedingly patient. He likes very slow, long, drawn-out games, and that is what mech does well.
It does indeed. Well, we're going into the next game. It's loading up right now. TargA versus Happy. TargA with a strong start here in this series. It would be the second upset, certainly, to see Norway then beat Russia after taking out Poland. But it could happen. TargA's already started off strong. We've seen TargA play already. He definitely knows what he's doing. And Eiki is apparently scarier than we first suspected.
Eiki being a respectable player definitely makes them just like infinitely scarier, because before they had TargA, who's a bit of a wild card. He's a little bit dangerous, but not really the best player. They have Snute, who's good, but he's not like a carry my team all the way to the finals kind of ace.
Yeah.
And then they had Eiki, who everyone figured was just a throwaway. It's like, well, they need a third body. This guy is from Norway. But now he can actually win games against good players, and they get a lot scarier.
Yeah, they actually do. If you look at that lineup once again, it's like, oh, you've got 3 solid players, then, you know, some of them have competed on an international level. All right, well, that actually makes you one of the scarier teams in this event then, because they were looking like another Spain for a little while. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say that they were another Spain in the sense that they had 1 good player and then 2 that we really didn't know too much about, because they do have TargA and Snute who are pretty good, but yeah, with Eiki, that's quite scary. However, if you want to talk about scary, one of the most skilled players in this entire tournament is sitting to the southwest position. In the red trunks playing Terran. For Team Russia, it's Empire's Happy versus his opponent to the northeast position. Now, recently teamless, ladies. So, if you want to maybe sign him
up. How can you resist him with that tag?
Indeed. You know, that clan tag obviously shows you what he's all about there. To the northeast position in the blue trunks playing Zerg, it is the one and only TargA for Team Norway.
TargA going for a hatch first, not scouting for proxy 2 racks. Happy does not proxy 2 racks. Happy doesn't really cheese. He's one of the least surprising players you'll ever play against. He finds a style, he decides how to play it best down to like the SCV timings of the build, and then he does it every single game, like without fail. He's one of the most robotic players you will ever see. So TargA is probably going to be pretty comfortable here. Happy's a prolific enough player that I'm sure TargA is very familiar with however he is playing.
Gotta be.
Especially
yeah.
if they're both playing on the EU ladder. So he's going to be pretty comfortable here. That's the one downside of being as reliable and consistent as Happy is. Everyone knows what you're going to do. And then the upshot of it is he's really good at what he does. So he's going to have to deal with that. But either way, shouldn't be anything too surprising on Happy's end. From TargA, though, you never know what's going to happen.
No,
and
you
he does,
absolutely don't.
does drop the gas, so he is starting out with a speedling opening. Last CVT that transitioned into an immediate Baneling all-in. I don't think he'll do that again. It failed so miserably against Star. I'd be very surprised if he did it against an even better opponent.
Yeah, you know, you could possibly say that Happy is twice the player that Star is, just in terms of results. And that's what you could really look at there. Obviously, on a good day, Star's going to play as well as that, but Happy is so consistent and is putting out good tournament results. You know, he's one of the only players who is really doing very well in WCS for Europe. It's kind of towards the top 8 when the Europeans start to fall by the wayside. Happy isn't. And he's doing that in a lot of tournaments as well, not just WCS. He is actually being the last foreigner standing for, I'd say Europe, but of course he comes from Russia, so that's not really true. But the European server, certainly. So you got to give him props for that. Nice little bit of micro here from TargA, actually, being able to evade most of those Reaper shots and not actually lose any of his lings, pulling back the injured one. So that's very nice.
It is. Just dancing around, neither side actually losing any units at all.
Yeah.
Which is to be hoped for early on. As long as Zerg doesn't lose any drones, they're fine. But the Terran doesn't even really need to kill drones to be fine in their own right. The
Yes.
Reaper is really just to get scouting information, map control, prevent an early third base. Although on this map, Zerg's unlikely to go for a very quick third anyway because they are so exposed. Really curious how TargA's going to deal with that. He still has one drone in gas that can either be an oversight or it can be like the stepping stone to some kind of tech build. Yeah, either Lair, Quick Roach Warren, something like that.
Yeah.
We'll know pretty shortly. Around the 6:30 minute mark, he should be making some kind of commitment to something. And back at home, Happy, of course, absolutely standard. A couple of Hellions coming out.
Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary there.
Actually, take that back. Two
Hang
more
on.
barracks built.
Oh, okay.
So, Happy, going to make me look dumb. He's going to go for some kind of 3-Rex timing. Hellion Marauder, maybe. Just general Hellion bio timing attack, perhaps.
Yeah,
Getting
they're
Stim
really
right
well
away.
hidden too.
Yeah,
Right near the
there's-
back. I mean, there's really no way the Zerg's going to see that.
Well, there are actually no Marines out, and he hasn't even started Marine. Actually, there goes the first Marine. Depends on how well he uses it. If TargA really wanted to, he could go in and see that. But it's just, it's Happy. You don't expect him to do something like this. You don't expect to need to scout him early on. So that's not foremost in TargA's mind.
Yep. Overlord is on its way in, so it might see this. As you said, there are actually no Marines, so
It's actually headed straight for the barracks.
yeah, so I take that back completely. There is certainly a way. The single Marine is on its way, and he's deviating as well. He's deviating his path. If he hadn't done that, he would have absolutely scouted this, but
I think he's still going to see
he might
one of them.
still. Yeah, you're right. He may still. There is a second Marine on the way.
Oh,
Oh,
it hasn't seen it yet.
it's
not gonna. It's
oh,
gonna,
you know, he sees
just
it. He
the
sees
edge of
one.
it.
He sees one.
Saw the edge of it. It didn't see an add-on, and it's like right at the edge of his vision. If he isn't paying actual attention, that's the kind of thing that he could miss. But he just dropped a Roach Warren. I was too focused on whether or not he was going to see the barracks. I'm not sure if that Roach Warren was a reaction or he just made it. He actually canceled the Roach Warren.
Oh, okay. He
Made a
does
nest.
not
He's
know
up
then.
No, he put down a Baneling nest. I think he's
Okay.
I think he's a little undecided on how he wants to deal with it, but I think he knows.
All right. Well, we'll see how that one does for him. Obviously, putting down the Roach Warren against just a pure Marine composition probably worked pretty well, but Banelings work well too, so depends how well Happy actually ends up splitting against that. His Hellion count is nice and high. He's got a couple of Reapers with this as well, so as a harassment force, this is pretty effective. However, he hasn't actually managed to do too much with it yet, aside from control the map and keep the creep spread back, which is fine too. He's trying
Keeping
to...
the creeps. It's very important not to lose those Hellions, because that's the anti-Zergling part of this timing attack that he has coming up. If you lose those, your opponent can just make Zerglings and surround you and kill you efficiently. So keeping creep spread back makes it harder for TargA to fight once the fight actually happens, and keeping the Hellions alive is the priority. This build that Happy's doing, it's a cheese. Like, it's very, very counterable, and Happy's actually getting a little bit over...
The surround from TargA on the back of the Hellions there. 1, 2, and 3, and 4 Hellions go down.
Nicely done by him. A little bit just over-aggressive from Happy, going that far into creep. You really shouldn't do that. Bit of a misjudgment by him. And 2 medevacs out, being loaded up with pure marines. They are going to come with both stim and combat shield, actually. So this is going to be a very powerful drop. Spire's just now started. There's not going to be any anti-air to deal with. There's only 2 banelings on the map. And TargA isn't making any more units. Maybe he didn't actually see the barracks. It doesn't seem like he's really aware that he's going to be attacked.
He built a round of 11 drones after he surrounded the Hellions, so I think at that point he thought, alright, well that's the aggressive component of this over, which is obviously not true. The Hellions are drawing the army out of position, and the big drop is coming into the main base. The Spore Crawler finishes at about that time, so that's going to make things a little bit more awkward. It means the medevac is either going to have to move back or he's going to have to target that down. Happy, don't lose your medevac, don't lose your medevac. He loses his medevac, which is not ideal, but he definitely has enough marines here to deal with these lings, no problem. There are no banelings in the meantime. Hellion run-by comes into the third base, kills a hell of a lot of workers. Happy with the spit roast going on here. In fact, the entire thing's going to go down, so that is absolutely brutal on this economy. Huge amounts of damage being done by this attack.
And the Marines actually survived in the main. They even killed off the Spire. The Spire was not cancelled, as TargA was busy trying to handle the Hellion run by his third base. So lots of Zerglings died and the Spire died, plus all the drones at the third base. So definitely a successful attack there for Happy.
Yeah, absolutely huge by Happy. Takes his opponent down to 35 drones, takes out that key piece of tech, which of course takes a long time to build. It was absolutely killed, and Happy is pretty pleased with himself, no doubt. He is going to take a fairly late third base, but with the amount of damage he's done, I think that's totally justifiable. A Ling run-by is going to run into a wall of nothing, so that's not going to really work. He's keeping an eye on these 2 drops, doesn't want the same thing to happen again, but Happy is in a great spot here.
He certainly is. He's got his upgrades coming. He's added another barracks. That's a single more barracks. He's continuing to drop. The continued drops are the biggest thing, though, because without that Spire, there's no anti-air to really shut these medevacs down. He's actually dropping on top of the lings, which is a little bit iffy. But as long as he's just careful about when he picks up and when he doesn't, this drop is essentially invincible, because there's no mutas for a very, very long time. And he's probably just going to win off of this. I don't know if TargA can actually ever clean it up.
I'm not 100% sure. Those low-ground Marines were quite a neat trick. As you said, he couldn't actually get his hands on them. But it did result in a lot of Marines dying in the initial medevac, which was a little bit silly. He's now going for the spawning pool and looking for the queens as well. TargA trying to hold off as best he can with transfusers, but that's pretty... Oh, it's not dead yet. There it is. So that is pretty much the production of the Zerg gone entirely at this stage. He can build queens, and that's it.
Queens and queens alone, and it looks like Happy wants to keep on the pressure. He knows that he has TargA on the back foot. Oh, there's actually another drop at the third base, cleaning that up as well. All of the drones gone there once again. And another drop in the main. And Happy can just keep doing this. As long as the Spire isn't up, there's no real answer to this.
Yeah.
And he can't even make lings now, so
he's building drones.
It's going to get worse and worse.
Yep, he's pulling a Kerrigan from the first mission of the Heart of the Swarm campaign here. He's sending in the drones, and they're going to, of course, take huge losses in the process. He's able to get a cleanup with that. The Spire coming up behind this. 2-2 is on the way, but, he didn't really get to build any units with that as of yet. But the drop aggression has now been cleaned up, and Happy did invest a decent amount into that, but it was certainly worthwhile to keep his opponent's tech back. Spire, I mean, come on, the Spire started at 14 minutes. Really, really late there. So he's going to have to rely, I think, on some incredible Baneling hits to make this work. He will have 2-2 done, which is nice, because Happy's still only on 1-1 and has just started his 2-2. But numbers-wise, I think it comes down to Baneling connections here.
Widowmine's now on the field as well, so TargA can't be careful about that. Yeah. And his engagements were kind of sloppy in the game against Star, so he may not handle that particularly well. Oh! Pretty decent Baneling connections, but most of the Marines got lifted off by Happy. Good control from him there. More Widowmines advancing. And TargA hasn't even been able to take out the rocks connecting his natural and his third base, so there's no easy way to deal with that. Another drop in the main as well at the same time. Yep. Everything.
He's all over the place.
Play by Happy. Yeah. Because without the mutas, there's just no response at all to this style of play, and Happy's abusing it to the fullest extent.
Indeed he is. And TargA's sitting on 1,000 gas, like saying, I'm going to build some Mutalisks, and then realize he only has 300 minerals, so that's not really going to work out so well. And, oh, he even gets a couple of Banelings with that last Widowmine connection before it gets picked off as well. So Happy's looking really, really good here. 43 drones killed. The third base has been established and is now being saturated as well. Link attack is shut down in the middle of the map. We will see. That is, of course, an orbital, so there is the possibility of a Ling run by here, but I think right now he needs all his Lings to defend, because there's another drop. Happy's still attacking. He might want to actually go for it entirely here, but he's trying to defend against this run-by at the same time, so he didn't send in all his Marines. He could actually have this hatchery dead by now, so that's a bit unfortunate. And a Ling run-by into the main base as well. TargA starting to get back into this.
Yes, he's almost gotten himself back up to half of the supply.
Indeed.
So, nicely done.
Emphasis on the word start to get back into this.
But the third hatchery does end up falling, or the third base. Third hatchery is still there, but that's not going to matter. No income. And a big Baneling attack actually coming in, killing off some Marines, but, you know, again, he took out 20 supply for 10, and that was a pretty good trade for Happy.
Yeah.
So,
63 supply to 134. A couple of Widow Mines picked off there. TargA certainly feeling rather ambitious and optimistic in this series now, but this is not looking good for him. Not at all. There are Marines attacking everything they can get their hands on. A bit sloppy there from Happy to obviously allow for those surrounds there, but this is the attack that matters. There's almost a medevac for each Marine. This is not going to die very quickly, and it looks like the main is going to be forfeit, and there's even Hellbats and Transformation Servos being added on here, which is not an upgrade you usually see.
no, I don't think Happy really cares too much at this point. I think he's pretty much just in attack move mode, and rightfully so. TargA is down to 60 supply. Again, not wanting to leave until the nail is in the coffin, but it's getting pretty close to that point.
Yeah, the hammering's been going on for the last 10 minutes, so I think the nail finally meets where it needs to, and down goes TargA. So, 1-1. This is turning out to be a little bit of a closer series than some had anticipated, but that puts Happy in the driver's seat now, and then we need to see whether or not you want to send another Zerg up against Happy after that kind of dominant performance, or you want to break out your Protoss secret weapon.
Both Happy and Vortex in the previous match mentioned how confident Happy is in TVZ and how he really wants to play that matchup. And given how strong Eiki looked, particularly in the PvT in the previous match, I'd be pretty surprised if they don't send him out. I think they don't want to risk Snute on that. They'd like to save him, if possible, for the ZVZ against sLivko. I think Snute would probably be the favorite there, and Eiki's PvZ is the thing we haven't seen so far that is a bit untested. We're not sure how good that's going to be. Definitely seems like the better bet for them to try and get Eiki to PvT here, take Happy out. I would expect that.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right on that one. Alright, well, currently one apiece in this series here, this Nation War, brought to you by O Gaming, as well as Daily Motion and Numerical, so please, by all means, do remember to thank them on social media for that. And it is Russia taking on Norway here, after Norway took the surprise upset against Poland. And currently it is 1-1, so a little bit balanced. We see the captain having to come out for the first time here for Russia after an all-kill by Titan against Spain. Titan got taken out in the swift fashion there by TargA with a very nice build against that 3 Stargate Void Ray style. And then just got murdered completely by Happy. Like, that was about as one-sided as it pretty much got. It was a 15-minute beating. So I suppose we then see whether or not the Protoss is going to come out. I think you're probably right that they don't really want to send Snute out in this situation. They would prefer to save him for sLivko. Snute's CVZ is very, very good. So that's probably the case that they'll send the Protoss player out there. But that's really going to be the case of an up-and-comer against an absolute veteran. So I have to wonder if he'll be able to handle the pressure there.
He didn't seem to feel particularly pressured in a previous match. He was playing against Mana, certainly, the more experienced player, and even Dystar, not famous perhaps, but definitely the more experienced player there as well. And he didn't miss a beat. So I don't know if nerves are really going to be an issue there. He seemed very comfortable. Nothing at all seemed like flawed or rushed or panicked about his play. He looked like he was very, very comfortable with his style, with his play, and he just kind of did his thing, and it worked out very well. So I'm not too worried about that for him. I don't know. I'm really curious to see, because Happy's TVP has never really impressed me too much in the past. He has good mechanics still. He's just a good player in general. That's always going to be with him. But he makes some questionable decisions. One real weird thing about him is he actually spends way too much time scanning instead of dropping mules, so he always ends up with way less economy than you expect a Terran to have. And against a greedy player like Eiki has seemed to be, I don't think that's going to work out too well if he has stuck with that, because you're just going to scan that he's making a bunch of buildings, and then you're not going to have the economy to do anything about it, and then he's going to run you over 5 minutes later. So, I don't know. I think the matchup's actually really good for Eiki.
I think so. You're absolutely right there. We're just waiting to see what these guys decide to pick. So we're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll see who Norway decides to field against one and only Russia. You are watching the Nation Wars, brought to you by O Gaming. We'll be right back. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the O-Gaming Nation Wars, and it looks like after some deliberation, they actually decided to bring out Snute to take on Happy here on Polar Night.
I find that very, very strange, particularly Polar Night. If it is loser, I don't know, did we ever get that confirmed? It is loser picks
We
map?
don't have confirmation of that. I would have to ask the admin afterwards. That was actually not in the documentation, so I would have to double check whether or not that is the case.
Because Polar Night, we actually saw that chosen as the TVZ map for Dystar versus TargA in the previous match. And just generally speaking, it is a very good map for Terran. It's so hard to take that third base, which is absolutely crucial in ZVT. And Snute is absolutely willing to play more aggressive styles. He does like roach-based stuff, ZVT. He's one of the few Zergs who will actually play like macro roach ZVT. Generally, if you do see that, it's going to be a roach Bain all-in out of most Zergs. He's a bit of an exception there. But still, that needs a third base. He's capable of doing a roach Bain all-in, but why would you want to take that risk with your captain, presumably your ace, when you have Eiki, who seems very comfortable PvT?
Yeah. That is a little strange.
I don't understand the decision. I kind of hope they win so we can ask them about it in the interview.
Yeah, it is a little odd. And Snute is obviously a very, very good player, but so is Happy. So, you know, I do wonder if Snute didn't... even then, no. I mean, surely you'd send out Snute last, because Snute is going to be confident in a ZVZ versus sLivko. I mean,
Absolutely, and
really?
everyone who's talked has said that Happy is a TVZ, like that's his go-to matchup.
Yeah,
That's what he wants to be playing. Why would you give that to him, especially when, I don't know, you have a better option?
I have
It
no
confuses me.
idea. I could not explain that one to you, but we'll hopefully find out after this particular series is done. Whatever the case, the man from Russia to the north position of the Blue Trunks playing Terran. It is Empire Happy, who is going to go for the 12-12, the Reaper opening here by the looks of it, versus his opponent to the south position, the captain of Team Norway, from Team Liquid, of course. In the Zerg, it is Snute.
And now I actually have to try and remember that his name is supposed to be pronounced Snute.
It won't work. Like, it'll be
No,
the
I
same
don't
with
think so.
Soke. You know how it'll go. We've been saying that wrong for 3.5 years, and it's still...
I never even realized there was any question about it. I thought it was just Snoop, because
Nope.
I'd never heard anyone call him anything else.
Apparently not, but there we go. It was... Then again, we had the same problem with Noonie for how long? I mean,
No,
10
he's still
years.
Noni. I don't care what he says. That word says Noni. The English language works in a certain way. Letters make certain sounds.
So what do you think about Idra, then?
It is phonetically supposed to be Idra, the way the letters work. Idra is purely Artos' brain being kind of messed up. Idra, it was always Idra in my head, and I checked phonetically. It's supposed to be pronounced Idra the way it's spelled. It's just Artosis.
Bloody Artosis, ruining everything as usual.
And we do see a gas coming down from Snute. That's kind of to be expected. Some players, Scarlet's actually the only one I can think of. Some players will play gasless on here, or at least get up their queens early on and then gas, and just accept that they're not going to have any map control early on. Most Zergs, however, on more aggressive maps like to get out that speed link very quickly and try and deal with anything the Terran's going to do early on. Maybe put some pressure on them. Snute does seem to be of that school of thought. But like I said, that is much more common on here. And Reaper actually getting in before there's any Zerglings out, doing a little bit of drone harassment, but Snute, of course, not going to lose a drone.
No, I don't think so. He is taking some damage on the links here, but once the queen's out, this will be effectively shut down. Didn't lose a ling as well, so really nice control here from Snute. Happy getting a little impetuous, really wanting to do something with this. Gets a Zergling for his trouble, but now the queen is out. He does not get the drone, and is going to be driven away.
Oh, he's coming back in. Nope, he's not going to go for it. The drone's up to three shots now.
Yeah, too much for a risk,
Too
I
much
think,
to
in
go
this
for.
situation.
Getting additional queen out as well, getting that creep shred going. That was the one thing TargA had going for him on this map, where he played the ZVT. Got destroyed and everything else, but he had pretty nice creep shred. And since it is such a small map, having a lot of creep shred, like, it's pretty easy to actually just take over the map with creep. It doesn't take as long as it does on a bigger map, and you can have everything covered. And you have really, really short rush distances between the bases entirely covered in creep. You can do pretty much whatever you want instantaneously.
Happy's doing the same build.
Yes, he is.
And it's going to get immediately scouted.
And it's much easier to scout it on this map. That's really weird. I don't know. Like I said, Happy is very robotic. He finds something that he thinks works and he does it, but usually that thing is not a very, very aggressive, kind of risky 2-base build. That you can't be predictable in that kind of thing. That's too dangerous.
Well,
He hasn't added any extra add-ons yet. Maybe he's going to change his plan. Nope, there goes the reactor. So yeah,
Apparently
exact
not.
same thing. I guess he believes in this build.
apparently he does. The question is, I suppose, what's Snute's response to that? Because the response for, well, I guess TargA didn't see too much of it. He did get an inkling of it, though. He saw the barracks at the back, and is thinking, okay, this seems a little bit fishy. But I wonder what Snute's response to that is actually going to be. The result of TargA's build last time around was a dead Spire, pretty much a dead third.
The way TargA reacted, though, I almost feel like he just didn't notice the second barracks, because you don't make drones the way he made drones if you think you're going to be attacked. And if you see that second barracks, you know you're going to be attacked. It's just, like, that's how Terran builds work. If they have a third CC, then they're not going to have that second barracks. If they don't have a third CC, then they're going to be attacking you before your Spire finishes. So I really don't think he saw it there. It is the exact same build. Starport coming out, so Happy is gearing up for those drops. Those drops will always come before Spire, so if you have good control, you can always try and make something happen with them. But it's such a big investment. Your third base is just so absurdly late. I don't know. I don't know about this. I'm not sure if I like it. But Happy has really good control. Maybe he can just always make things happen.
Yeah, I mean, it seems unlikely that you would consistently kill the Spire with this build.
Yeah, you can't count on that.
No.
Like, it takes Zerg messing up. Zerg is absolutely capable of holding it off. Otherwise, it would just be a broken build that everyone does all the time.
Yeah. It's also worth noting this is a slightly different version, because previously this Hellion push actually came along with 2 Reapers. But the one Reaper was killed and the second Reaper was never built in the first place, so I think that may have enabled him to possibly get slightly quicker stim, maybe, because he had a little bit extra gas to play with, but he doesn't even have the medevacs yet, so it doesn't actually make that much of a difference.
No. However, he is getting a lot more done with the Hellions. Well, not a lot, but he's getting more done with the Hellions than he did against TargA. He was getting quite a few drone kills. The creep spread is not what it was in the previous game. But, yeah, you can already see Snute preparing for it. He already has 5 Banelings out. He has 14 more Zerglings for production. He absolutely knows he's going to be attacked. It's just a matter of where and how.
Indeed.
He doesn't actually have a lair started yet, so his Spire is not going to be... It's going to be a non-factor. He's just going to have to deal with this on the ground, which gets pretty difficult because it just takes one drop you're not prepared for, and everything starts to snowball. You have to pull all your units back to deal with it because you're out of position, and then the other drop comes in somewhere else.
Although I guess if you want to apply bronze logic, the way to counter this drop is to never build the Spire to be killed in the first place.
And
here comes that
Snute
drop.
is actually entirely out of position.
He is. Shockingly enough, which is weird. It seems like Snute had identified this build, but perhaps not. The Lings are going to be able to shut most of that down, and an entire dropship's worth of Marines die. 17 workers were killed, though. I mean, that was massive.
17 workers and a Spore Crawler, and he got things going.
Oh,
and
he's getting 4 Overlords.
4 Overlords. That's not good, because Snute's now supply block, and everything about this build is designed to snowball. You just start dropping everywhere at once, because there's no Spire, or you get there before there is a Spire, and in this case, Snute actually delayed his tech a lot, so his Spires could be even later. And if you do some damage, then you start dropping somewhere else, then the ground army has to run to respond to that, you start dropping somewhere else, and so on and so forth. Although Happy actually hasn't sent out a second drop just yet, which is strange. Ah, there it goes. He loads it up, he sends it out to the third base. Snute has, however, dealt with this much, much better than TargA. He is still absolutely in this game, even though he took more damage than he really needed to.
Yeah, he hasn't lost key tech structures, he certainly hasn't lost his spawning pool yet, so that's nice. Obviously, he didn't have a Spire to lose in the first place, but yeah, he's still holding on quite nicely. He's able to replace those drones without too much of a problem. He has a good link count, a very good link count. He's only got 3 Banelings, but he does have 6 Queens. So his creep spread's going to be great, and his drop defense is going to be solid as well. And Snute is able to drive that drop away from the third before it does anything.
Yeah, he really does seem to have stabilized the dropping all over everywhere, back and forth thing that I talked about. It's not happening at all here. Happy's barely even going for it. He's just out in the middle trying to clear creep, which is also productive, but it's not going to be as big. Actually, picking off a couple of Queens over on the left side of the map, maybe getting some Banelings as well for his trouble.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he got 2 Queens for that drop. That's absolutely fantastic. The Banes will not do anything, but the Lings are now out on the map, and Looks like Happy is going to try and secure a third base, but although with that many Lings and Banelings, it might be a little bit dodgy. That said, we do still have a very late Spire coming out from Snute. You know, it kicked off at about the 12-minute mark, which is a little bit late, but it does mean that by the time this Spire is done and once Mutas start being produced, he's going to be on 2-2 with Baneling speed against a 1-1 Terran.
And he is, and it's a Terran without, it's a Terran who almost just lost all of his Marines, and this is very, very weak defense here, and yeah, Snute kind of just plows through everything.
Yeah, these Widowmines did not do the job. The Widowmines get most of the Banelings, so that was a little bit of unfortunate from Snute there. If he'd maintained, 6 more Banelings, that would have been great. He's actually going to lose the rest of them by the looks of it. Yeah, there they go. And a bunch of Lings go down to those Widowmines as well. In the meantime, drop goes down to the third base, doing some damage to the drone line. Looks like they almost took a queen out, but they didn't. 19 workers killed up to this point here by Happy, which is pretty good, but it's not stopped the economy of the Zerg player from going along quite well, and this third base has been denied mining on the Terran side for quite some time.
It has, but Happy has... Happy actually just lost
full
2
drop.
medevacs in a row.
Ouch.
He lost the one that was down behind the natural as well,
Yep.
so in the course of a minute or two, that's a lot of damage to be taken. But
Well,
Happy has managed to not lose any SCVs. He hadn't started mining at the third base yet when the attack went in, so his economy is not too bad. But he doesn't have very many units, and Snute is about to make a lot of mutas, I would imagine. Or he has a lot of mutas in production right now.
Yeah.
Along with that existing Ling Bane army.
Going for 11 with +1, which is fantastic. I mean, the upgrades of the Zerg player have been really great up to this point. Terran's still got another minute of not having 2-2, so there might be a window there for the Zerg to actually do something. But overall, the Zerg is just taking good control of the map. He perhaps needs to be thinking about a 4th base.
He really does. If he's not going to be attacking and doing real damage really soon, he needs that 4th base, because their supplies are very, very close. Their worker counts are very, very close. And that's not what you want as Zerg. You need to have an advantage at this point in the game. Happy does not have he doesn't have any bunkers. He doesn't have a whole lot of defense.
Lost most of his Marines to his own Widowmines there as well, actually, with that run by. Admittedly, Snute with a little bit of indecision loses more Lings than are necessary, and the mutas are driven back.
That was a really sloppy, weird half attack by Snute. It was like he just accidentally ran in and then realized that there weren't a whole lot of units and thought maybe he should attack. But then all the reinforcements came and he realized that Widowmines are Widowmines. And so he just ended up wasting like half of his Lings.
Yep. Snute loses a couple of mutas in the main base as well,
there's so
and his entire mineral line. It's kind of brutal. And a big push towards the third base as well is chased away by the Banelings, but 26 workers killed right now. And losing a couple of Mutalisks as well. I mean, even for just the mutas, that drop was probably worth it. As it stands, it's definitely worth it. Fly attacks kicks in, but so far he hasn't really got much done with these mutas.
There's another double medevac attack swinging around into the main as well as this attack comes into the third base of Happy.
Ooh, Widowmine connections are really, really nice there for Happy. There are more Banelings available, though, and the Mutalisks are now chasing that down. He's using the Banelings to kill off the remaining Widowmines. That attack now ends for the time being. Here comes the drop again. And it come right on top of that Queen, looking to try and kill it off immediately. Snute does have a response, but it's a little delayed, resulting in the loss of a Queen right there. In the meantime, Happy's gonna... Oops, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. But yeah, I don't know, that was a really, really sloppy attack by Snute. I'm not sure... It's just so much indecision in all of the attacks he's tried to make on Happy's third thus far. And when you play against someone with like the control of Happy, you have to commit to it because he's just going to pick you apart if he has time to work with it. And that's exactly what happened. Plus the drop in the main, of course, at the same time.
Yeah, Snute is suffering really badly here. 37 workers killed at this point. The third base taking significant damage. In fact, the third base's mineral line just got gutted. Banelings are finally going to clean up this attack, but... as usual, at what cost? 52 workers to 63. Mine Burrowers on the way, as well as 3-3. And Snute is really playing subsistence and nothing more right now. He's building units to stay alive, but Happy is just going to keep hammering him here.
And Snute has no 4th base. He has a hatchery there, but there's 0 income at all coming from that, so he can't really play the just survive game. He doesn't have a follow-up. There's no hive. There's no economy. He doesn't have a huge mutaflock.
It's just all died. Yeah, he just burned all his mutas to try and hold that attack and didn't work. So that's the GG. And well, it seems the wisdom of sending up a Zerg against Happy on Polar Night was not really there. And Happy struggled a little bit more than against TargA there, but frankly, once he got going, it was a several rounds of beating that Snute ended up taking. And you were absolutely right about his attacks as well. When Snute went for that third, he didn't seem to have a clear plan in mind. And he tried to react at the time, and that resulted in some indecision and a lot of dead units.
Yeah, both the attacks he made into that third base, both the first one where he like sent some Zerglings in and thought he saw a weakness and then tried to commit and then backed out and then tried to commit again. And then on his one big attack where he actually had enough Banelings to probably make it through there if he had just attack moved. But I think he saw a Widow Mine or something and he was worried that there would be a big explosion. And then he tried to back off, but then he realized that the Stim Marines could chase him down, so he tried to re-engage. But by that point, Happy had already established himself and has Marines split. I mean, credit to Happy for really good control there. That's what made the situation so difficult for Snute to judge correctly, but Snute really, really messed those attacks up. And interestingly enough, Happy doing that same kind of aggressive build both games in a row, Snute was, like, he knew it was coming, but he just didn't react to it very well. He had all the units, but he had them out of position. And even though it was literally the exact same thing, Happy just did to TargA. I don't know. Questionable play from Snute there.
Yeah, that was a little unfortunate. Snute's sort of run of bad luck at the moment seems to be continuing. And that then leaves your Protoss player, the least known and perhaps the least experienced, as your ace, which is awkward for Norway, I've got to say.
Yeah, I really, really still dislike it, especially to send Snute on Polar Night. I mean, I'd imagine it was his choice, so he knows something that we don't know, but it was just, I don't know why they would do that, because now you have the inexperienced player as the ace. There's no backup. If he's going to get nervous, like the country or the nation war is on his shoulders now. There is no backup as there was in the previous game. So there's that to contend with. Plus, he has to win. He has to win everything. He has to go and beat a Zerg player afterwards. We haven't seen his PvZ yet. I don't know. I'm really curious as to why they did that. I think it backfired on them a bit.
I think so. Yeah, I don't really think that went too well for them, and that may very well have cost them the series, because that's a lot to ask of your final Protoss player, Eiki, here, to take down not only Happy, but also sLivko.
Definitely. Although, in the previous match, like, no one would have expected to even win 2 games there, regardless of the circumstances. So, maybe he can do it again here?
Possibly.
This is definitely stiffer competition, but I feel pretty comfortable in his ability to beat Happy. I mean, obviously, it's not a guaranteed thing by any means. Nothing is a guaranteed win against someone like Happy.
No.
But I think he's very comfortable with that. I would be more curious to see how the PvZ against sLivko goes, because we haven't seen his PvZ yet, and very greedy Protoss versus Zerg play is a bit more punishable than very greedy Protoss versus Terran play.
Yep.
So I think that might be the big stumbling block for him here.
That's possibly. Well, if he manages to bring his team back from this, then I think he's managed to establish himself quite nicely. I mean, even that 2-kill in the previous matchup was pretty impressive. Here, even more so. Alright, here it is. It's going to be on Frost. This is, of course, potentially the final match here. Russia is 1 map away from taking it all the way through to the Day 3 semi-finals. And Norway is 1 map away from dropping down to the losers final, where they will face the winner of Spain and Poland. Poland, of course, a team they've already beaten, and Spain, a team that is looking probably the weakest team. Well, I'm not even going to say probably. They got all killed. Yeah. They're definitely the weakest team in this group. There's no question about that. But can Eiki from Team Carnage actually take out both Happy and sLivko? That's a tall order.
I don't know. I believe. I was pretty impressed with those games against Poland. He looked quite good. I think he can do it.
Well, I guess we will find out. I wonder if he'll play exactly the same build, and if he does, whether or not the Russian team has an answer to that.
Yeah, because in the post-game interview, he seemed very, very confident in that build. He just seemed to believe it could beat absolutely anything. So I'm curious if he'll do the exact same thing. Happy's not much of a cheeser. Like, no. That game we saw him do a more aggressive. Both the previous games, we saw him do more aggressive builds than we would expect from him, but still not cheesy by any means. He wasn't going proxy 2-Rex. He wasn't doing like 2-star Banshee, anything like that. So I don't know. He's not the kind of person who's really just gonna flip a coin and do it all in because he thinks his opponent is going to do a somewhat greedy build. So I think if Eiki chooses to do that, he will get away with it again. And then, I don't know, it's very hard for Terran to come back from that kind of situation, no matter what the skill disparity may be. It's such a powerful build if you can get away with it.
That's definitely true. Well, Happy looking really, really solid against Zerg up to this point. Just rock solid in general. In fact, the entire Russian team so far, even though we've only seen 2/3 of it, has looked really good already. Admittedly, I'm looking forward to seeing the Ukraine, who we'll be seeing play tomorrow. They have a really strong lineup in the form of TargA, Bly, and one other player whose name actually escapes me.
TargA, Bly. Who was the other one? Was it Cass?
Yes, it was. Who is,
That would be fun.
who, funnily enough, like, if you said in Wings, oh, you've got TargA, Bly, and Cass, I'd say, whoa, alright, you're winning some. Cass lately has been a little off, unfortunately. Seems like his fortunes have turned the other way. He's been in a bit of a slump lately, but that's not to say he can't bring it in this team series. Absolutely not. He is more than capable of it. He's just not quite the monster that he used to be.
Yeah, I would find no problem in trying, like, or saying that he's like the mana of the team. He was a great player. He's still pretty good, and he's like just experienced enough, and he's been around enough that he's gonna be able to beat anyone. But you can't really consider him like a free 2 or 3 wins as you could in the past.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but never mind. Right now we have Team Norway on their last legs in this winners match here, and they're relying on the newcomer Eiki. He is in the southeast position. He is in the blue trunks playing Protoss, and his team is Carnage Esports. Versus his opponent to the southwest position on Frost, the captain of the Russian team, who has already got a 2-kill, looking for the all-kill in this match. In the red trunks playing Terran, it is Empire Happy.
We actually get the exact same positions as we did for Eiki versus Dystar on the exact same map.
Yep.
So if there's a situation where he's going to do the same build over again, I would say it's probably going to be this. I have to wait and see on that one. And Happy, I haven't seen him play TVP too recently. He was always as Happy will be. He was very, very generic. Just get up his little Bioforce into Medvacs, into Vikings, into Ghosts. Very, very good Ghost control and very, very Ghost heavy play. That tended to be his staple in TVP. But again, I haven't seen him play it for like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what to expect from him.
It's going gasless here.
That is interesting and pretty unusual. Reaper CC has been by far the most common TVP opener.
Absolutely.
In recent times. Just the scouting information it provides is invaluable. Although it's gotten to the point where every Protoss plays greedy at this point, so maybe Happy feels no need to actually scout too thoroughly, and he's just going to go for more economy himself in order to deal with it early on. Could be.
Definitely a possibility. There's the gateway for Eiki, so there's the Cybercore directly behind that, but it's what's after the Cybercore that I'm interested in, and whether or not Eiki has another build, or whether or not he's going to try and pull out the same one. Happy so far is just sitting on 1 barracks happily. He will be expanding momentarily, and there's the SCV going to do that. So 1 rack's gasless expand, which is just a little bit quicker, but it does mean that you're kind of delaying your tech here, which can be a little bit risky.
Yeah, unless he drops a double gas here, which is a possibility if he wants a really quick factory into Starport and whatnot. Will be slightly delayed. There's also the option that he goes for very bio-heavy play. I have seen him do things like that. 3 racks timings, actually very similar to what Dystar did in his TVP. And we do see another barracks coming down here. No gas star just yet. Maybe very marine heavy play. Maybe he's just going to put double gas down a little bit later, head up into the tech labs and whatnot from there. And back at home, Eiki putting down a very, very quick Nexus. I believe this is the same way he opened up. I think that was Gateway Nexus in the previous game, or in his previous PVT.
There's another barracks going down here for Happy. Still no... the gas is taken on 23, which is some of the latest gas I've seen for Terran in this matchup in a while.
And he is dropping the double gas, so he will be able to check up afterwards. Just slightly delayed, going to get a lot of Marines out early on. That's something that's pretty common. Well, that kind of thing, just you get a lot of Marines out, you go poke, you maybe do some damage if you can, maybe get a unit pick off if you're really lucky, force out the Nexus cannon, and then just retreat. Maybe go in for a secondary attack after that if you're really feeling cheeky. See if Happy goes for something like that. He likes to be very active and aggressive. He has very good control, very good multitasking, so it really behooves him to be very active on the map. He tends to exploit that. So I would not be surprised at all if he moves out for a little Marine poke. But what his follow-up is going to be, we don't really know.
Looks like the same build from Eiki, though. Into that Robo.
It served him very well. You can't really blame him for going back to it, especially on a big map like this. Hey, sorry, that's my cat.
I was gonna say, are you okay over there? Do you need me to send help?
No. She likes messing with a little door stopper thingy. Makes noise. She's an obnoxious little cat.
Stalker out in the field is going to keep an eye on things. Just poke into the natural. It will, of course, see a bunker. Forge coming down here as well for Eiki, which does get scanned. But it's still no more gateway, so we may very well see that exact same build from Eiki. He seemed very confident with it. Warp Gate's about to finish. Factory is coming up here for Happy. And these barracks, funnily enough, have not been that active. They have sort of been sitting around, occasionally building a few Marines here and there, but they don't have add-ons on them.
That's interesting, because I think if we had actually committed to Marine production and gone for a very, very quick timing attack, that could be the one weakness of Eiki's build here, because he does sit on like 2 Stalkers and a Sentry. And even if with the Planetary Nexus, maybe if you attack early enough, the Colossus is nowhere near done, you poke in, you force out the Planetary Nexus, then you have a follow-up attack before he gets big. But Happy's not dedicating to unit production at all. He's not going to go for that. He's just headed up to the starport. And there comes a Robo Base, so it is the exact same build.
Yep.
Happy
it did
just
get
scanned,
though. Yeah.
Yeah, he just scanned the main of Eiki. He saw everything except the Forge, I believe. But he should have a general idea of what's going on. But that's not too big of a deal. The thing Eiki is doing is, if it's risky in any way, it's that it's greedy, and there's no way that Happy can punish that. So knowing what's happening isn't really too big of a deal here.
Yeah, he pretty much got away with it, and he even gets away with that Stalker, which is nice. Takes a lot of damage on it, but he got away with it. The Twilight counter follow-up as well. Again, you know, we've seen this same build before in this same map in this exact same situation. Ridiculously greedy tech, taking the gateways only at the last minute, sitting on bare minimum units. Literally 4 units. And funnily enough, Happy seems to have even less of a chance of doing anything to that. But he wants to play more standard against this. He wants to get his starport out a bit earlier. He doesn't want to use all of his units in an attack.
The thing is, Dystar was playing very aggressively, and that meant that he had to invest a lot into that aggression, whereas Happy has spent relatively little money on units. He's getting his tech up much faster. He almost has his starport completed. The first Colossus is about to complete, so that's still not ideal timing, but he is getting his tech up much faster. He has much better upgrades and much more economy to work with, so it's not going to be as hard for him to fight going into the mid-game. The other big thing to keep in mind is Eiki's army control was not perfect, whereas Happy has a very, very good army control. So if you give Happy a reasonably close game, a reasonably, not too big of a disadvantage, he can actually make something happen with it. Whereas Dystar just kind of attacked, and he was so far behind it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
So there is that. But it's definitely not as good of a situation for Eiki as it was. He's not getting to take his third base for free right now, as he did in that previous game. He's having to go blink first and add an additional 3 gateways. So his economy is not going to be nearly what it was. Just generally speaking, it's a much better situation for Happy than it was for Dystar. It's still not at all bad for Eiki.
Yeah, and in fact, Happy is just sort of rolling around, taking a little bit of control. The Colossus at the front. Oh, and a nice little evacuate there by Happy. So quick pickup and go. Couple of force fields forced out of Eiki, which actually does make a difference because this build only has 2 sentries in it initially. So that's actually a lot of energy that got forced out right there.
Actually, in the late game battles, I remember him having 2 sentries in the previous game as well. That might be the only sentries he makes. Because he gets blinked so fast, he kind of uses that for positioning instead of the force fields.
Yeah.
And then he'd rather just make a bunch of units than try and use force fields. So
yeah, and he just flat out can't afford the sentries. I mean, on 2 bases with 4 gas and Colossus and all those upgrades. And now Happy's going to go and attempt a drop, which Eiki looks like he's relatively prepared for. He's got to be a little bit careful though. The Stalker's out the front, one goes down for free. Nexus Cannon has been forced out there and will be able to drive this drop away. Colossus now coming back. It doesn't mean, of course, that Eiki can't be aggressive, so the drops are pinning him there, but Eiki's also not taking any economic damage from this.
Yeah, he lost only a single Stalker for that, but of course it didn't cost Happy anything, so no reason not to do it for the meantime. Cost him maybe a couple of Marines. And Eiki still has not taken a third, and he's sitting in, I believe, 7 gateways now, so there he goes to drop the third base. But there was the potential for a 2-base Colossus all in here, or there. But with that third Nexus, it does look like he's just playing a safer game, which is really smart. It's very reactive play from him. He realizes that his opponent isn't as far behind, so he's playing a little bit more conservatively. He's not trying to take that early third base like he did against Dystar. And Happy is actually gearing up for a big timing attack here.
Yeah.
This is kind of scary looking. I don't think he can defend that third Nexus. Yeah, he needs to get up the ramp.
Yeah. Alright, well, Stalker's at the front, and here comes the fight. The Colossus at the front is taken out immediately as the Viking count is very, very high, and I think this does expose a little bit of a weakness in this build, that there just aren't all that many units in it. There's way too many Marauders. Those Stalkers don't stand a chance. And one Colossus goes down. There's still 2 up. The third base obviously will be cancelled here.
Yeah, that was quite a mistake to fight down the ramp there. Just fundamentally, you have a Nexus that's not even half finished, and you have an SCV pull timing attack coming out from the Terran. There's no reason to fight that on the low ground. There's no reason to fight that on anything except extremely defensive position. But this follow-up attack from Heavy is not going to work at all. If he keeps trying to go in there, he's just going to lose all his units.
That's absolutely true. Down goes the infamous Scouting Factory, and Eiki didn't lose a huge amount in that fight. He lost some Stalkers and a Colossus. And he did kill quite a lot in the process. The resources lost is actually almost about as even as you could possibly expect it to be at this point. But Happy's definitely in a hell of a better position than Dystar was. He is still on 2 bases, though.
2 bases, and he doesn't have very many medevacs, so he doesn't have a whole lot of sustainability to his army, and which is mostly red, orange, yellow health. So he's not going to be able to attack again anytime soon. Eiki right now should actually just go immediately drop a third Nexus. It looks like he is prepared to do that with that probe out there. Because his standing army would just absolutely destroy Happy's standing army now. There's still a good amount of Vikings, but the ground army from Eiki off of those 7 gateways, off of those upgrades, with Charge Lot on the way, that's getting pretty superior. And the lack of medevacs is going to start hurting Happy a lot.
I certainly think you are right there. He's still making Vikings, actually. He's going to go up to 10 here. And it would perhaps behoove Eiki to think about a tech switch at this point with that many. But he's still building Colossus. He's going to go up to 5.
He did just drop a Templar Archives. 5 Colossus, I don't know, might be a bit too much. I agree with you. I think a switch into Zealot Templar Archon would be absolutely fantastic right now if he could get to it before he would get attacked. But Happy, no third command center yet. It's looking like he really wants to attack. So making a tech switch or committing to it too early could be pretty dangerous, especially as he's taking that third Nexus. But there's just so many Vikings. He's going to have really, really good stalker positioning and be very, very careful with Colossus.
And that's going to be very difficult to do with 18 Marauders on the field.
That it is. But the big thing is, he did only lose that 1 Colossus in the previous engagement, so he still has quite a few of them relative to what the Terran can afford to have.
Still building them.
Here comes the second attack out of Happy, and this is a big SCV pull. He's only leaving behind like 10, 15. So this is pretty much an all-in. Once again, I think Eiki should just abandon the third base and defend up the ramp because of position.
Yeah, I think he doesn't want to lose the 16 probes that are currently hanging out there. I don't think he's realized the pull is here, or the army. He's moved that back, and I think he's willing to lose all of his probes there, which I think maybe is a little excessive. Losing the Nexus is fine, but the entire probe line as well may be unnecessary. And right now, Eiki is set up in a good defensive position on his natural, but that's going down, and a Viking attack goes in and does decent damage.
There's an Archon out now, and interestingly enough, Eiki was actually very, very oversaturated, so he may have wanted to lose those probes so he could free up some army supply. He's at 186 even after losing all of the probes. So that was unnecessary, but may have been intentional. And the first Archons are out. Charge Lot is now up, +3 weapons, +2 weapons about to finish, +3 armor on the way. And Happy, I don't know, he cancels the third Nexus once again, but he still doesn't have his own third command center. So I'm not really sure if that's a win or not for him, because now we have the gigantic high-tech Protoss Death Ball out. Templar Storm is available if he wants to start upgrading it, and there it goes. And once that hits the field, the lack of medevacs is going to be a gigantic problem, because one Storm and the entire army just cannot fight for the next minute or two.
Yeah, I certainly think so. 6 medevacs, wow. And I mean, there are 7 Colossus out, so the Viking count is still relevant, and there's still more Vikings actually on the way. But there is a risk for a huge tech switch that completely catches Happy off guard. Still no third base from Happy, good lord. I mean, he's pretty much mined out his main now, so unless he wants to take that and dump it on the third, he's almost mined out his natural too. There's actually a patch missing there. He's massively oversaturated, so this is going to become a real problem for Happy quite soon if he keeps up with this.
Yeah, and he's not headed for any more upgrades. He has stopped at 1-1 and he's staying at it. He is heading up towards Ghosts, so I imagine he's just going to get the Ghosts going, and then he's going to do one final SCV pull, which is going to be completely all in. Like, he's going to have to kill with it, and hope that he gets big EMPs, I guess. But Templar are out now. Storm has finished. He is going to have Storms available. barring Miracle EMPs here. And Storm against this kind of composition, Storm against anything low economy, because Storm is always going to be cost efficient. So you really just need to kind of outmuscle it, get a lot of ghosts going, snipe well beforehand. But neither time nor money is on Happy's side, and you really, really need both to work against Templar. So, I don't know, that might actually be the end of it for Happy. This may not even be possible with Storm on the field now that I think about it.
There's definitely a possibility. Upgrades are not looking good for the Terran player either. 2-2, actually that's 2-3 is about to finish. And that doesn't make a huge difference against Marauders, but those 37 Marines are pretty much going to tickle these chargelets. And he's going in just a couple of seconds before the upgrade. There it is, it kicks in right now. And here we go. The Storm goes down in the middle, misses everything. Second Storm also kind of misses everything. The Chargers moving in. All the SCVs come off the line here. The Archons having an absolute field day. Colossus doing really well as well. Happy is plummeting in supply right here. The meat is gone at the front, so it's a little bit risky. Eiki's going to have to push back. The Marauders now come in, try to take out the Colossus. Stalkers on the right flank are still doing damage. Not enough sentry force fields. And Happy is able to break through, but he's losing everything in the process. The reinforcement wave comes in. And that is the nail in the coffin. 31 supply to 98. Eiki is impressing today. GG.
Yep, that was every mineral SCV in the battle. That was a complete all-in. And Eiki, I don't know, pretty bad storms, honestly. Not the best control really once again, but once again, more than enough stuff to just power his way through it. A kind of just attack move. A bit better Colossus control that time. That was a saving grace, because those two Colossus alive at the end were what cleaned it up. I think reinforcements would have kept him alive anyway, but doing what he needed to make it happen.
Yeah, he really did. And that build is absolutely fantastic. It seems to do the job. And Happy has not found the answer to it. Dystar did not find the answer to it. So someone's going to have to. But the last man on the field for Russia will in fact be sLivko. So I am intrigued to see what Eiki can do in this situation. We haven't seen him versus... Yeah,
his PvC is a complete unknown to us thus far, and we haven't actually seen sLivko yet either today, so we don't know what kind of shape he's in. He's been very quiet for the previous few months. Like you said, we haven't seen a whole lot out of many of the European players just because WCS EU has been in a lull. There hasn't been any big DreamHacks or IEMs where a lot of Europeans participated for a few months. So everyone's a little bit of a question mark right now, but sLivko, I don't remember the last time I actually saw him play in a tournament.
It's been a while, honestly. And he hasn't really been able to put out too many results lately. He had that one spike, as we said earlier, where he just, you know, he was really, really good and he was placing high. And his, I think, his last big performance was actually IEM Singapore, which was, that was 2012.
Yeah, that was more than a year ago. It wasn't the previous IEM Singapore.
Yeah. He did win the Cup of Russia, which was in July. He went 3-1 against Verdi for that one. Not a huge tournament. His 2013 performances have been in online cups, for the most part. Very early on, 2 wins in the regular cup, but that was before HOTS came out. So yeah, he's definitely been quiet. We haven't seen too much out of him. Going to be difficult to... I mean, this is pretty much an unpredictable matchup to me. I haven't seen sLivko play in ages, and we haven't seen Eiki play against TargA at all. So we do know, of course, that he beat TargA in that Norwegian Cup quite recently, so he's evidently not terrible at this matchup, but it's hard to know.
TargA CVP against Titan? Yeah, it was Titan. Looked pretty okay, but that was just a timing build, so it's hard to read too much into that.
Yeah.
sLivko, back in Wings of Liberty, very much so embraced the Broodlord Infester, Turtle CVP kind of style.
Yeah.
Which obviously does not work anymore, but that can be instead Swarmhost Turtle kind of ZVP. That kind of fits the same mold. He's a very patient, very macro-oriented player. So we could see something like that. And Habitation Station is a map that can be split down the middle. If you really want a Turtle style, you can make it happen on here. So, God forbid, but we could be seeing that.
Right.
But he does have great macro. He could be going for just more of a mid-game layer-oriented kind of thing. He's certainly capable of that. One thing I've never ever seen him do is any kind of Mutalisk-based stuff. So, I'd be surprised by that. But again, it's been so long since we actually saw anything out of him. Anything is possible. And then Eiki, who knows?
Yeah, that's a bit of a mystery. Now, to answer your early question, by the way, I did get a confirmation from the admin that it was loser pick, so Snute did actually pick Polar Knight.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, I want to ask him about that. Well, so we're going to have to root for Eiki, because otherwise we're not going to find out the answer to that question. So we'll see if Eiki can actually win from here. But honestly, that's a powerful performance from him up to this point. He has really impressed throughout this event. If you can take out sLivko as well, that'll be a breakout performance.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially coming back and saving his team after the other two members fell early on like that to Happy. That's not an all kill, obviously. You can save that for the later rounds, I suppose. But coming back from being down 2-0ing his opponents, and especially the Russians, because this is, I would say, one of the stronger teams in the entire thing.
Yes.
And probably the favorites for this group going into today. So, I don't know. If he does that, very, very impressive.
I think so. All right, here it is. Let's find out. Will this be Eiki's breakout performance, or will sLivko be able to take it for Team Russia and complete a rather rocky road for them after their absolute decimation of Spain? But here we go. To the northeast position of Habitation Station in the Blue Trunks are playing Protoss. From Team Carnage, playing for Norway, it is Eiki. Versus his opponent to the northwest position, the man with the longest clan tags in history. In the Red Trunks, playing Zerg for Team Virtus Pro, brought to you by BenQ. It is Virtus Pro BenQ sLivko.
I'm really excited to see sLivko. I liked him quite a bit when he came out. He's just a very, very nice guy, so it's very easy to like him. Plus, he was quite a good player.
Yeah. I also heard he bench presses Koreans in his off time.
He's quite a big guy. It was actually really scary. I think it was a Home Story Cup. He lost a match. It was an important match, an elimination match. And me and Bling or something were sitting in the room next to the player room casting it on the secondary stream. And then after he loses, he just walks in and he like slams his fist into the wall. And he's a big enough guy that when he does that, it makes a big sound. And he wasn't like furious or angry or frothing in the mouth or anything. It was just like a little bit of frustration and, wow, I'm stupid, ha ha ha, I'm gonna punch a wall. Fun little sLivko story there.
There you go. So sLivko is prone to bouts of violence, but outside of that, very nice guy.
Yes, pretty much.
Good to know. Yeah, but you're right. He is actually, of all of the StarCraft 2 players and casters, I think the only person that sort of matches him in terms of just pure muscle is probably Kaldor. sLivko is built like a tank.
I don't know. There's some big guys in control. There was another big one. Demaga is actually bigger than he seems. He did kickboxing before. Works out a decent amount. There's some reasonably fit esports people. Machine.
That's true.
Machine's smaller now. He's going more athletic instead of bulky.
What is Machine up to these days?
He has been working as the house manager for EG. I'm not sure what his plans are for the rest of the year, since they've been moving more towards Dota, Team House, and whatnot.
Ah, okay. Interesting. All right. Well, let's see what happens here. So we do not know what Eiki's Protoss versus Zerg is like, and we don't really know much about sLivko because he's been off the radar for so long, so this could go either way. Obviously, it is a Zerg map that has a gold base on it, so I have to wonder if sLivko will attempt to take that, and when he will attempt to take that, and if he does, whether Eiki actually has an answer, because plenty of Protoss players have been saying, this is a tricky map for us because of that against Zerg.
The gold base makes Zerg very, very powerful in the early mid-game. It gives you just so many roaches and lings so quickly. You'd have to invest barely any drones at all to be able to support 3 hatchery production. But the other thing is that base is very exposed to the air. And Void Rays are kind of what you want anyway to defend against Roachling. It works very well for that. Void Rays are very popular just within the current PvZ meta anyway. And then they have very easy access to that gold base aggressively. And we do see a Stargate come up immediately. Although a Stargate that early, most likely going to be for Phoenix and or Oracles. But either way, it gives you very good control of the gold base area very quickly. But sLivko's not even going to go for it. He's just dropping a 3rd hatchery at his the blue mineral 3rd base instead.
Yeah, it seems like he suspected the possibility of airplay and didn't really want to take too much of a risk. Losing that gold base early on would be a little bit crippling. You can always take it later if you are able to get control, and then that means you don't have to go up to a massive drone count, but you can still then get 4 hatches worth of production, which makes you a bit monstrous.
Yeah. The biggest advantage really is in the early mid-game, though, because later on you want more infestors or mutas or swarm hosts or hive tech.
And the minerals doesn't make a difference there.
Yeah, roaches and lings fall off very, very quickly, besides as harassment units. And even then, you don't need a lot of them. You don't need 100 Zerglings to run around attacking naked mineral lands. You don't even want them. It's just a waste of supply. So if you're going to do a gold-based centric strategy, you really kind of need to take it early on. Otherwise, the payoff isn't nearly that big. Whereas later on in the game, it actually starts to benefit Protoss more, in my opinion, because they can go around doing 10 plus gateway zealot warp-ins, doing a ton of damage everywhere that your entire army isn't. So, I don't know. I would say not taking it early is a bit of a mistake for Zerg, although it can be exposed and difficult to defend. I think you need to take that early on to really get the most out of it.
Alright. Well, we've got another Phoenix on the way here, so Eiki just looking to clean up some Overlords, and is able to do that quite nicely. So, thus far, a fairly passive game. And it's going to be that nice little 3 Phoenix group, which is a good number to go around, start, pick off drones, kill Overlords, gain map control. In the meantime, sLivko is now taking gas on his natural. The question is, will he take gas on his third, and when is he going to lair? Actually, that's just his full gas, so he actually... Whoa, that's crazy late. He took his gas at around 65 supply.
Yeah, he saw the gateway expansion, so he knew it wasn't going to be like a 7 or 8 gate. And I don't know, I didn't see if he actually got a whole lot of extra scouting information, or if he just waited until he saw the Phoenix and made his decision then. But yeah, he actually just making an absurd amount of drones, got 4 gases really late all at once.
Yeah.
Just being very, very greedy, which is the right way to play against an air opening. The counter to Phoenix is actually drones.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to attack a Protoss player short of maybe some circling harassment on their third base. And they can't really do anything to punish you for being really greedy. So you might as well be really greedy. That's the best thing you can do in the situation. So smart play from sLivko. He's going to be in pretty good shape here. He's not taking too much damage, but he actually needs way more sport crawlers than he has. 1 per base is not sufficient against anything more than 3 Phoenix, even with empty queens.
Nice
he does
transfuse.
take the queen, though.
Yeah, he has to be really, really active if he wants to be able to deal with these Phoenixes without adding those extra spore crawlers. And to be fair, with the amount of drone production he's got, I think he can afford to spend another 3 and maybe get an extra spore crawler just to cover that area there. Third base going down here at Eiki at the gold, interestingly enough.
I like that decision. It's actually, in my opinion, easier to defend than the other base for Protoss, because you can just put up a wall and put 2 cannons behind it, and it's going to be really, really hard for Zerg to break. That's a tiny ramp, plus the gold base gives you plenty of income to put up a couple extra cannons if you really feel too exposed there. It is, of course, very vulnerable to mutas.
Yeah.
But again, sLivko, not a big muta player to my knowledge, and maybe not to Eiki's knowledge either, and he's actually putting him in an infestation pit right away. So he's going like Zergling Infestor, but he doesn't even have Speedling yet, and he's just now starting his melee upgrades. This is very strange. He does have really good creep spread. He's getting 4th base coming up already. He has quite a good drone count. But this is a really weird tech choice from him. I wonder if that'll be Swarm Hosts or Infestors or just a quick Hive. His upgrades aren't good enough for a quick Hive, though. Like, he would have had to start 1-1 a long time ago for that to be a good decision. It is Infestors.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
Against Colossus. It's not good. Colossus heavy play is basically the counter to Ling Infestor. So I don't know how well this is going to work out for sLivko.
I remember the glory days when that wasn't true, when Neural Parasite actually had 9 range.
9 range, and Fungal actually did damage, and the good days.
Indeed. Well, not anymore, though. So unless he's got something creative up his sleeve, Do you think this is a misread, or does he actually have a plan in mind here?
I honestly think it's just a bad style. I think Ling Infestor, the way Scarlet plays it, is kind of okay, where you have to be very, very aggressive with the Zerglings, and your entire plan is focused around denying the third base and playing a low econ game where the efficiency of Infestors and upgraded Zerglings can actually play a big part. But if Protoss has 3 bases, they can make Colossus and Templar, and then Lings and Infestors are essentially worthless. Like, they pretty much do absolutely nothing at all to that army. We do have a couple of Swarm Hosts coming out and a Hive coming up, so sLivko is diversifying a bit. That's really good. Ling Infestor would not win the game for him at all.
No.
Did he actually cancel Pathogen Clans, or did he just... Because he just started the Locust upgrade.
It looks... Okay. Yeah, it did finish, yeah. All those Infestors sitting on about 85 energy, so that's to be expected. Okay, well, at least he has that as an option, but as you said, he is diversifying. Fungal whiffs completely. I mean, catching Phoenixes with Fungal is difficult enough as it is if they're moving, so that's to be expected. But you're right, he's got all sorts of things coming in. Another Stargate is being added on here by Eiki, 6 more gateways. He's building some Void Rays as well, so it looks like we're just going to see all the tech paths going in here.
Like a Void Ray Colossus composition, I don't know how much I like that. I would kind of like to see Templar instead of Void Ray, given the Infestors, which he saw. I don't know, I think Templar are very good in general. It should always be built early on. But Void Rays are also very good. I don't know, it's hard being a Protoss player. You have so many good units, and you have to pick which ones to make. It's unfortunate for them.
Oh my.
Oh,
Well,
and here comes the Zealot Warpins. This is the
Yep,
effect
there
of
it
the
is.
gold base that I mentioned early on.
Yep, that fourth is going to take some damage. The units are out of position here, and he's now moving
Might
into
actually
respawn.
die. No, he responded in time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna-
The hatchery.
Yeah, he'd have to spend probably another warp in to make that happen. He wants to focus it down to try and kill it off later. A nice little transfuse goes in. That doesn't save it. I think it actually wouldn't have lived. How much is transfused? Oh, that's 125 life.
It's like
Yeah. 125. It would have lived, but only just.
And very nice play from Eiki as soon as he pulls the army out of position with that warp. Oh, but he gets caught by a fungal, and now he's going to lose everything. Oh,
That
terrible.
is not good, especially with Locusts in there. He's able to force field the Locusts out and also grabs most of the Infestors from the back with the Phoenixes. So that actually worked out a hell of a lot better than it had any right to. That was really nice control there by Eiki. And eliminates most of those Infestors. The Colossus continue to push this back. He micros one back. He's going to lose a couple of Stalkers if he keeps fighting here. But that certainly could have gone a lot worse. He could have lost everything. The problem he now has is that there is a lot of Zerg supply behind this. 86 drones and a decent-sized army alongside Swarm Hosts is now starting to shove the Protoss player back.
Zerg lost a lot of Roach Sling, which is very replaceable, whereas Protoss lost some Colossus, some Sentry, some Stalkers, some Phoenix, which is a lot of gas and much less replaceable. However, sLivko is kind of staying on this low-tech army. He's mixing in more and more tech, but he still has a lot of Roachling, and that doesn't scale very well at all. So he kind of needs to make things happen. He needs to trade those Zerglings out for whatever he can get for them, and start heading up towards... It looks like he's headed for Broodlords, actually. He's making a lot of Corruptors.
Yeah, and the Fleet Beacon's actually on the way, so I think we're going to see Tempests come out here from the Protoss player. I mean, it's a good map for it, as we've seen very much in the past, and Eiki manages to save that fourth base, which is nice. A little bit of this... The most awkward locust aggression in history kind of runs into a wall and does very little, but the next wave will certainly do damage if it's properly controlled. Here are the Tempests coming out, which is a pretty good choice against Broodlord and Swarm Host and Static Defense. I mean, it's pretty much the best choice.
Yeah, it's essentially the hard counter. I think they killed Broodlords in like 4 shots.
Yeah.
I really don't like this from sLivko. Generally, I feel like the way you should play ZVP late game is you go Ultras first, you scare your opponent and force a reaction from them, and then you do a Broodlord switch and kill them when they have too many Archons and Immortals. Because Broodlords can be countered very, very hard by Tempests. Another little Zealot warp in, but that's stopped very nicely.
Shut down.
But Broodlords can be countered very, very hard by Tempests. If you actually commit to Broodlords and your opponent gets out like 4+ Tempests, you kind of just lose the game. So sLivko has a very, very small timing window here where he can make something work, and after that, it gets very difficult.
Yep, he's currently working on this gold base with that and doing some decent damage to the economy. Lings come in and just get toasted completely, but I have a feeling he was just throwing those away so he could build more stuff. And he's got a Viper and 5 more Corruptors on the way, and he'll definitely need those Corruptors against these Tempests, otherwise he's not really going to have a way to fight this. And this is starting to get really crazy with a lot of big units on the field, 2 more Tempests coming out, which is going to start to knock out those Broodlords pretty quickly as well. Air upgrades are actually not a factor on either side at the moment. +1 air armor is coming out, which will not be that helpful, but yet again, we have the third base going down to the Broodlords. So that's the gold base gone. Wow, nice pick-off there. And here comes the engagement. He is fighting right into spines, about 5,000 queens, Broodlords, and everything else. Eiki is going for it right now with a lot of high-power units, but this is very risky. The Broodlords aren't dying. The Transfusers coming in right here from sLivko. The Protoss army is trying to push its way through, but it's losing unit after unit. The Tempests keep working in, but the Corruptors are in now as well, and Eiki is getting shoved back, and that might be the end of Norway's hopes in the winners match here, because sLivko is still on max and is now shoving this back with just brute force.
That was a really, really questionable engagement by Eiki. He had already lost the gold base. He wasn't defending anything there. And time is on his side. The more Tempests he gets, he can just kind of sit there from a defensive position and pick away at sLivko. That gold base is never going to survive. He can do constant Zealot Warpins down at the bottom. Time is very much so on his side, and there was absolutely no reason to attack there. Nothing was being pressured. He had already lost the gold base. Maybe he didn't realize he had lost the gold and he wanted to try and secure that, but that would be a pretty big blunder in itself. And attacking into a defensive position like that, into the static defense, and all of the transfuses, and an arc of Broodlords, just, you needed to play defense and pick away at the Broodlords with this Tempest. A frontal engagement there was just the worst thing he could do.
Yeah. And now it looks like sLivko really, really wants to attack, and I don't blame him. He can lock the Protoss in the natural. The Protoss player is going to be able to take out the fourth base of sLivko, which is a little annoying, but the gold is established. He can just go over there instead if he wants. And let's be honest, it's 35 Stalkers and a Colossus. versus everything that sLivko's got. Admittedly, sLivko actually has too many Corruptors here. But he could morph them all into Broodlords, and then that wouldn't be a factor.
And Broodlords, at this point, are a win button. He has no... Because the Stargate production is completely under control, and there's no air units out on the map. And Broodlords just absolutely destroy Stalkers, particularly with any kind of support around. There's no more Mothership, there's no more Vortex, Archon Toilet, whatnot. Air units are a very hard counter to Broodlords, but they are the only counter to Broodlords. So without an overwhelming supply advantage, there's no way sLivko ever beats this Broodlord army. It doesn't look like he's really... Go ahead.
I see there's one way this goes, and that's the one problem with Broodlords, the only problem with Broodlords, is in a base trade situation, they're the slowest bloody things on the planet. And Eiki is running around with 35 plus 3 Blink Stalkers, and is actually picking off a lot of bases. sLivko would still have to make a huge mistake, though.
If we take a look at the main of sLivko, he has prepared for this eventuality.
What the hell? That is a lot of spine crawlers.
It's a lot of spine crawlers. I don't think even 3/3 Blink Stalkers. I don't think they
not
need that.
happening. Unless he well, I mean, I've got to give credit to Eiki's Blink Micro here. It's actually really, really good, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think. He does have that one Colossus, but it will take him forever to kill that. So, yes, I think you might be right. The Stalkers appear to be stuck on the ramp here. A huge blink forward into a forest of spines. No, that's definitely whittling down the Stalker
I like how
count.
he blinks in and then tries to back out. It's like, nope.
It's like, no, that was a terrible idea. Never mind. All right, well, never mind. So maybe if he didn't have 25 spine crawlers in his base, that would have been a bit different. But as it stands,
he's actually killing them all and not losing that many Stalkers. It doesn't matter. It's taking too long. He's going to get eliminated and stuff. But
there's a proxy Dark Shrine in the bottom, if you can believe that. There's the GG. Never mind. Yes, that was not a winnable situation for Eiki, regardless of what magic he pulled out of his hat there, I think. And Russia advances to day 3. Hard fought, though.
Hard fought, indeed. I'm sad they didn't win, because I really wanted to hear the interview and hear why they put out Snute first. Because I think if they put Eiki out, he beats Happy, and then I think Snute has a much better chance of beating sLivko. Eiki's PvZ engagements and control and whatnot are much more important than macro and build orders. Relative to PvT and PvP, at least in PvZ than anything else, and that does seem to be Eiki's weak suit.
It seems to be, but that's unfortunate. I would have liked to see Eiki actually complete that. That would have definitely been a story. I mean, it's already a good story as it is.
For a breakout performance, beating the players he did, not bad by any means.
Oh, absolutely not. So that's what? Happy, Mana, and one of the players' name escapes me.
Happy, Mana, and Dystar.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not a bad little performance at all. It's unfortunate he couldn't complete it, but Russia was a very strong team. sLivko is evidently still a very strong player. And that puts Russia through to the playoffs, which is certainly something I think a lot of people anticipated. That does leave Norway with a chance of going on to day 3, though. They will be fighting the winner of Poland versus Spain.
Which you'd have to imagine would be Poland, and they've already beaten them once before.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Poland plays a bit more smart next time. Holds Nurcio in reserves, tries to get rid of TargA first, and then let Nurcio kind of outplay everyone else. Because after watching that, I think Nurcio almost 100% beats Eiki. And then Nurcio versus Snute, I think that would be the good game to watch for, the exciting back and forth one. So I would still give Nurcio an edge there.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. Well, we'll see if we can get a winner's interview with Happy. If not, we'll be going to a break, and then we'll be bringing you the losers match. One of these guys gets eliminated from the nation war. It's going to be Spain versus Poland. It's going to be a tough road for Spain. Poland, we did consider to be one of the stronger teams, and then they ended up losing to Norway, but they're still a damn strong team, and I think it really does become a case of, can Vortex carry them through?
And Vortex, I don't know, he didn't look like the player who ripped through WCS Europe a couple of times in the last year or so. He did not look like that player at all.
No.
So I don't think he's going to be able to carry.
I don't think so, but you never know. We may even see a breakout performance from one of those other two. we didn't see too much from them. They kind of got stomped into the ground, which was unfortunate, but I don't know, maybe it was nerves. Who knows? We will find out. Alright, folks, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we'll be bringing you either the winner's interview or the next match, whichever comes first, assuming that we'll actually be having a winner's interview. Currently waiting to see whether or not that's going to happen. But regardless, please do enjoy the music. You're watching the Nation Wars, brought to you by O Gaming TV, Daily Motion, and Numerical. And it looks like we absolutely are going to have a winner's interview, because we just had Dimitri Kostin, a.k.a. Happy, jump into this. So I expect a very short and very Russian interview out of him.